wanted to move into the
Yeah.
city
Sometimes
apartments.
I think too much.
We'll call the regular meeting in the New Ulm Economic Development Authority for Tuesday, March 13th, 2018, 8 a.m. to order. First item on the agenda is roll call. We do have a quorum. So we'll go to item number 2, approve the minutes of the last meeting.
I'll move them. Second.
We got a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the last meeting. Any discussion on any? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 3, from the New Ulm Economic Development Corporation Coordinator regarding activities during the month of February 2018. Brian?
Brian Toll, New Ulm Economic Development Corporation. You have my February report in your packet. I'd like to just call out a few things. Mr. Gromnitz and I met with Dan Denhoff, who is the president of J.R. Schugel, and we talked about their potential plans for expansion, and also Mr. Denhoff indicated that they were purchasing another trucking company that was actually larger than they are. So significant growth for J.R. Schugel. We're also working on the upcoming Career Expo, which is April 4th. And we typically have 50 to 60 businesses exhibit at the Career Expo, and we're having 8th graders and 10th graders from all the New Ulm schools and all the Sleepy Eye schools. So we'll have probably 600 kids, maybe 700 kids come, which is a pretty good group. Also like to point out that we've entered into a contract with DLC Manufacturing, which is a laser cutter and metal bending business, relatively small business. I think they employ 5 or 6 people, but they're being pushed by some of their customers to expand. And so they're looking at purchasing a lot in the airport industrial park and putting up a new building. I believe they're looking at 20 to 25,000 square feet. So significantly larger than what they've got now. And then also we've been communicating with a number of people at Windings regarding a potential expansion for them that they're considering. They haven't made any commitments yet, but they're looking at the potential of purchasing 2 lots in the airport industrial park. Questions?
Anybody have any questions, Brian?
I don't.
Thank you, Brian.
Yep, thank you.
Brian.
I'll make a motion accepting the New Ulm Economic Development Corporation Coordinator's report regarding activities during the month of February 2018.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just
yes.
like to note that we're, Brian Toll and the city staff are scheduling a monthly meeting to keep coordinated and in connection with what's going on, in the community. We'll be including the new economic development director when he arrives, Heather, PUC representatives and that. So that'll be a once a month type activity, sometime in the area of the EDC meeting, so that maybe we should actually do it prior to the EDC meeting, so if there's any issues, we can highlight them.
Be a good idea,
for the EDA.
Good, thank you, Brian. Item number 4, from the EDA staff regarding administrative activities during the month of February 2018. Heather.
Right, good morning. We'll start with the Section 8 report on pages 1 through 5. Note we had 84 vouchers on the program for the month of February. Housing assistance payments disbursements from HUD exceeded payments to landlords by $3,300. Administrative fee disbursements exceeded expenses by about $900. We have 83 vouchers on the program as of March 1st with a waiting list of 76. Staff continues to issue vouchers. We're trying to get our numbers up, but we keep losing people off the program faster than we can add them. So we continue to issue vouchers. We've got our wait time down to about 4 months now for the high priority group on the waiting list. And the way things are going, we may get through that waiting list and get the wait time down to basically immediately being able to come on the program. I still haven't received our 2018 funding notice from HUD, but I expect the funding to be stable, so I'm trying to be a little bit cautious because I haven't received that yet, but I think we'll just continue issuing vouchers to try and keep our numbers up in that 90 to 100 range. Moving on to the public housing program, expenditures have exceeded revenues by about $1,700 for the fiscal year. Broadway House is fully leased with 53 on the waiting list, and the family units are fully leased with 42 on the waiting list. Moving on to the EDA fund, cash assets of about $620,000. We have a sale pending for the spec house at 633 Fender Drive that is scheduled to close on Friday, and the staging items were removed earlier this month. Moving on to the property rehabilitation loan program, available funds of $251,000. The rental property fund has cash assets of just over $80,000. And moving on to the Garden Terrace report, Garden Terrace has 85 units leased with 41 on the waiting list. At the time of this report, they had 3 vacancies. I think they've got that down to 1 or 2 now. They had 4 turnovers last month. They have no move-out notices pending for April. So they've, in the last couple months, they've had unusually high turnover, but they've been doing a good job of getting those units leased. And they're almost full again. Last month I mentioned that staff had reported windows and patio doors are leaking air, and also the garage furnaces are original and harder to obtain parts for repair, and new furnaces would be more energy efficient. I did a walkthrough with Jim, the maintenance guy over there, and Ryan Wire with the city yesterday. Ryan did recommend obtaining some quotes on replacing the furnaces in the garages for both buildings. But he did recommend just leaving the windows for now. He said for us to really make a difference with the windows, we'd have to go to quite a higher grade window, which would be very expensive, and the cost payoff with energy efficiency just wouldn't be there. So he just did not recommend doing anything with the windows at this time. Staff has replaced some seals in the windows, but Ryan said until they really start failing on a regular basis, he just thought it was better to leave them for now. So, because he said we could spend a lot of money on replacing windows and patio doors and have tenants still complaining of drafts when the wind is blowing the right way and, you know, a strong enough wind. So it really wouldn't resolve the issue. So we'd be kind of throwing money at it and not
Heather,
getting the
as long as we're-
results we
oh,
want.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I know we're talking about that. We had some talk last year about the air conditioners, and where are we at with that process? Will you remind me?
At Garden Terrace, the air conditioners,
Garden Terrace.
every apartment has a magic pack. It's a heating and air conditioning unit.
Okay.
Those are being replaced rather than repaired now if they're original.
Because there was some discussion about replacing all of them or a large portion of them.
We're just
we
kind of
backed
doing
off
it
from
as they break down rather than throwing money into repairing them.
Repairing was really expensive, right?
Just replacing them. Well, repairing it, you're repairing a part of it, but then another part breaks, and then you're putting money into repairing that. So we're just replacing them due to their age. We did mention that to Ryan yesterday, and he agreed that because of the age of the buildings, that was a good approach.
Okay.
So.
Thank you.
So I did instruct Jim to contact some of our local HVAC guys to have them come in and take a look at our system, see what they come back with as a recommendation and give us an idea of what it might cost. And then if it's something the board wants to move forward with, we would actually take bids.
How many furnaces are down there in the garage?
Sorry, what?
How many furnaces? They said there's repair and to obtain parts for repair and new furnaces. How many
There's 2 buildings, so each garage has
has its own furnace?
a furnace.
Okay, thank you.
So there's 2.
Any questions for Heather? Seeing none, entertain a motion, accept the report.
So moved.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Item 5A, receive a correspondence from the HUD and an overview of voucher conversion process timeline. Heather?
Okay, in the overview, I gave kind of a history to refresh our memories. The developers of the State Street Apartment project came to the EDA with a request to convert a portion of the Section 8 Housing Choice vouchers into Section 8 project-based vouchers to be used in their building for their 4 long-term homeless units. The EDA approved that request at the meeting in April 2017. And then the State Street developers came back to us and asked us to issue a letter of intent to cooperatively develop a housing plan agreement with Community Housing Development Corporation, or CDHC. The letter of intent was contingent upon CHDC receiving the low-income housing tax credits that they were applying for to finance their project, and also on HUD approval to do the voucher conversion. So that letter of intent was issued at the May meeting.
That was May of 17, right?
I'm sorry, yes.
Yeah, just
May
wanted
of
to clarify.
2017,
Yep,
thank
yep.
you.
No problem.
So that was all in place and went in with the tax credit application. I believe the deadline was June of 2017 for that application process. Then we were notified in October 2017 that their application for low-income housing tax credits was approved. So staff moved forward and submitted a request to HUD for approval to convert 4 housing choice vouchers to project-based vouchers in December. And we received a letter, which is attached for your review, stating that request was approved. So just to give you an idea, now we start going through the hoops of actually getting through the conversion process with HUD. Back when we were originally approached to convert vouchers, because this is new to us, it's something we've never done before, I sought some advice from a housing authority in the metro area that has been through the process, and she was saying, oh, that's great, it's a tax credit project. Because they're going through that competitive process with their application, you won't have to go out for bids competitively. You can just give them to this project. So I was like, okay, great, that sounds, things with HUD usually don't go that smoothly. Well, when I applied to do the conversion, HUD notified me that no, that's not the case. It's been done that way in the past, but it's wrong. So yes, you do need to solicit proposals. So you can see my timeline here. We need to include our intent to utilize project-based vouchers in our annual plan, which is coming up for a public hearing and approval next month. The next step is to update our Section 8 administrative plan to include process policy for project-based vouchers, as far as our selection process and all the things that go along with having that program. So I will be bringing that to you for approval as well next month. Then in May, I will come to you for approval to solicit proposals. That has to be advertised in the paper several times. And then after the last publication, you have to give another 30 days for proposals to be submitted. So I would be coming back, actually I think I would be coming back in July to select an owner proposal because of that timeline, and I thought I had changed that in here, but it looks like I didn't. We also need to request a subsidy layer review certification from the HUD field office, environmental review, And then finally, once we've gotten through all that, and if all goes well, we would enter into an AHAP contract with the owner, and that must be done prior to the start of any construction. So we are in a bit of a tight timeline because they are anticipating construction to start in November. So we need to have all these other things in place prior to then. So there is a little bit of wiggle room, but not much. So hopefully we'll stay on track and be able to get all of these things done. I'm not sure if anything goes wrong and we're not able to convert these vouchers for their project, how that will affect their tax credits. I'm not clear on that, and I don't know, Dan, if you ever got an answer on that.
No.
You had asked the question.
Right. Heather and I have been exchanging some emails with people that are familiar with this process. And I don't think anybody really knows because this whole process has been determined by HUD to have been done wrong in the past. So there really isn't anybody out there that knows the answer to that at this time. I think it was kind of a process where it was rubber stamped more or less in the past, like you had described. But I think in reading some of the literature of the other housing agencies that have gone through this, it's tedious but pretty straightforward. We just have to go in the incremental steps because of the requests for proposals and the publication and all that. So it's got to go through all the proper motions. But I think in making a determination, we, the commissioners, get to decide ultimately who to award the project-based vouchers to. So, and I think we're in drafting the language, it's going to be made specifically toward something along addressing long-term homelessness. So, and any potential property owner that would wish to solicit and be eligible for the project-based vouchers would have to understand that that's what our intent is in going in and seeking the approval. So anyway, we'll see how it all goes. It's a good layout. I think you've kind of spelled it out really well, what we need to do.
Yeah, we're learning as we go. And
yeah. Well, we'll have plenty of
We're
things to
gonna
discuss on agendas coming up on upcoming meetings, so there you go. Each month we'll have something relating to the apartments, the way it looks here, so.
Is it still the plan of the State Street Theater to do deconstruction this summer, though? And the construction would start in
The
fall?
theater part?
I'm sorry, not the theater, the apartments.
As far as I know, and
Or is everything off till fall?
well, they're going through the completion process of getting everything coordinated as far as how they can deconstruct things and still maintain the historic
Right.
preservation aspects. And that is a very time-consuming
I'm sure.
process. I think there's people there pretty much every week, different parties, reviewing different aspects of the structure and how they're going to tackle it to get it renovated into apartments, but yet keeping all the historical aspects intact. So,
Yeah, similar
curious.
to, we have our steps we have to go through in our timeline. They have
There are other
right,
stuff,
yeah.
approvals
I was
they
just
need to
curious.
get through as well.
I know representatives from CDHC are going to be down next month. The chamber is going to have hot topics, and they're going to kind of give an update and a timetable too. So it'll be interesting to see the latest information updates on that too. So
Great. Any more discussion?
I'll offer a motion to receive the correspondence.
I will second.
We got a motion to second. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 5B, consider adoption of the revised utility allowance schedule for the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program.
All right, this is an annual item. The Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program provides rental assistance to low-income participants. The participants on the program pay approximately 30% of their adjusted monthly income toward their rent and utility costs. And then the New Ulm EDA pays the remaining portion of the rent directly to their landlord. So we have a utility allowance that we use to estimate what the tenant will pay for their utilities based on the unit they're renting, how many bedrooms it is, and the type of unit. So we annually review the local utility rates, weather adjustment factors, and other pertinent information that affect the cost of utilities, and we prepare new schedules every year based on that information. In looking at the proposed utility allowance schedules for the upcoming year, utilities have remained fairly stable over the last year. There's a slight increase in natural gas, LP, oil, and electric rates. LP and oil rates are very rarely used because that would be someone renting outside of city limits, which we don't see very often. Most program participants are renting within city limits, either in New Ulm, Sleepy Eye, Springfield, or Hanska, and are using natural gas or electric heat. So attached are the proposed utility allowance schedules that would be effective May 1st for your review. We have schedules for New Ulm, Sleepy Eye, Springfield, and rural Brown County. And then there's also schedules for the type of unit: apartment, single-family home, duplex, and mobile home, and then 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, and 4-bedroom. So it's kind of a worksheet that we go through and circle the appropriate numbers as someone comes to us with their paperwork for the unit they want to rent. Any questions?
So Heather, the numbers in red are the new numbers.
The numbers in red are the proposed numbers effective May 1st.
So actually in the electricity area, a few of them went down, right?
Yeah, I kind of looked at overall.
A little bit.
It was, yeah, it's weird. Some went up, some went down, depending on the
Most
city.
went, yeah.
But nothing drastic. I
No.
mean, when I started here 9 years ago, we were having some wild fluctuations in gas rates, and we're just not seeing that right now, which is nice. It keeps our program a little more stable.
Any more questions?
I'll make a motion to adopting the revised utility allowance schedules for Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program effective May 1st, 2018, and ordered filed.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 6A, consider awarding public housing program property and liability insurance package bid. Heather?
Right, again, this is an annual item required by HUD. We go out and take bids for our insurance for the public housing program on an annual basis. The insurance covers the Broadway House apartment building and the 10 scattered site family rental units, all located in New Ulm. We sent bid packets out to 11 insurance agents and received 3 responses. You can see those listed here. ARMA Insurance Program, Housing Insurance Services, or the HAF, and State Farm Insurance. All 3 proposals received met the specifications. The proposals also include the boiler and machinery coverage, equipment breakdown coverage. State Farm was the low bidder. We've been with State Farm for a number of years, and we have a good working relationship with them, so we do recommend accepting their proposal.
I'll offer a motion to accept the State Farm bid at $12,867.13 effective April 1st.
Second.
Second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 6B, consider motion authorizing payment of public housing program claims. And that's an amount of $16,189.77.
The only thing I'll note this month was that last month we had a payment to Quality Appliance and Television. I misread the invoice. I thought it was $499. It was $1199, so we owe them a difference of $700.
I was the only one I had a question on. I'm like, 700? Did we
Yeah.
buy one or did we?
I shorted them, and they noticed.
Good try, I guess.
Any more questions, concerns? Entertain a motion?
I'll offer a motion authorizing payment of public housing claims for March 13, 2018, and order filed.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 7A, receive draft annual plan for fiscal year 2018. Heather?
All right, another annual item HUD requires. We review our 5-year plan and create a new annual plan on the in-between years. So I've attached our draft annual plan. Note during year 3 of the 5-year plan, the following goals and objectives have been accomplished. We continued to leverage public and private funds to create affordable housing opportunities by working with Community Housing Development Corporation to help secure low-income housing tax credits for a 55-unit affordable housing project, which includes converting 4 of our Section 8 Housing Choice vouchers into Section 8 project-based vouchers for use in their 4 long-term homeless units. Continued to develop Milford Heights affordable housing subdivision by selling 20 acres of land to a private developer who plans to construct a mix of townhomes, twin homes, and single-family homes. We utilized our capital fund program grants to install a camera surveillance system and also completed a roof replacement project at the Broadway House Apartments. We were recognized as a high performer in both the public housing and Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher programs. And we continued to be an active participant in the local housing industry by attending meetings for the Brown County Homeless Response Team, the Housing Needs Initiative Task Force, and the Minnesota Housing Partnerships Housing Institute number 6. So it has been a busy and active year. Attached is the template for the annual plan. We are a small housing authority, high performer. We still have 50 public housing units and 124 housing choice vouchers, no changes there. I'll note on section B2, I did check yes, that we do intend to undertake new activities related to the following. The yes is for project-based vouchers because that is something new for us in the upcoming year. Usually everything's no there, but this year I got to move one over to the yes column. You can see the progress report that I went over is included in B3. And that's about all I need to mention on that.
Thank you. Any questions for Heather?
I'll offer the motion to receive the draft annual plan for fiscal year 2018.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 7B, consider a change in pricing structure for the 9 unsold lots at Milford Heights Phase 1. Heather?
All right, this item was up for discussion at the February 13th meeting, and it was tabled at that time. The EDA has 9 vacant lots for sale with prices determined by size. One of the small size lots available at a current price of $12,500, 3 medium-sized lots priced at $15,000, and 5 large-sized lots priced at $20,000. You can see the original prices, which were reduced in September 2012 to the current prices. We talked about 2 different options last month. Option 1 was to do a price reduction across the board, and option 2 was to put the remaining 9 lots together into a package and solicit bids from developers. The item was tabled in order for staff to get recommendations from a local realtor. I wasn't able to get a response, but it's my understanding Commissioner Schultz had a conversation yesterday, which maybe you want to talk about.
Yeah, just briefly, we just had a few minutes at the end of a meeting, and I wish we had more time to talk, because I would add a few more questions for him, but he had the understanding that there was already some pretty strong interest in these lots from a developer. So I thought, oh, okay. Then I thought, well, maybe we're going to have some more info from you today. So obviously not.
I think early on there was conversation that somebody was interested, but nothing has come forward officially on paper.
Yeah, there's two developers that I'm aware of that were looking at those properties. One developer, I believe, is still interested in possibly purchasing the remaining lots. The other developer, after a follow-up, informed me that they aren't intending to purchase any additional land at this time.
It's the
So there is
assessments.
still one that I'm aware of that's interested.
It's the assessments that I think are a stumbling block.
Yeah, it is a TIF district, and so the developer won't know until they sell the property if the owner qualifies for TIF. So I don't know how they price the property for sale, not knowing that. That does complicate matters.
All right.
Well, I think I talked last time, my thought was to try and bundle these and see what we can get from a developer and what they're willing to throw, what concept they have for us, and then we can take it and pick it apart and send them back a amended request and see where we end up at. That's kind of where I'm at, versus just lowering the price and let them sit there for another year and then another year and then another year, and then we sit there 3 years later and we're still got property out there. But that's my opinion. I don't know where everybody else is at.
There is a middle of the road, option that would be, recognizing the fact that maybe somebody out there can't buy all 9 at once.
It's true too.
Maybe you say, buy 1 at this price, buy 2, at a reduced price, buy 3 at a more reduced price, to kind of maybe give the opportunity for a developer to just buy 3 lots. Or 2 developers to buy the properties. But I think buying all 9 at once is number one, it's a chunk of money, but it also puts all the risk on one entity. Whereas if you could break it up into smaller pieces.
We have the 4 that are really close together, right across the street from each other. If you scroll down and look at that, the other ones are kind of here. Well, there's 4, and way at the very end, there's 2 across from each other too. But
Yeah.
But maybe that could be part of the process, is put together a request or proposal, and we'll look at it.
Or if we're going to be lowering it by adding more, the first price is this price, second price is lower, why don't we just lower the price and see if there's individuals out there who are interested in purchasing, and, let them go with it too.
Yeah, because then you actually have the potential for John Q. Citizen to buy a lot and have, somebody build a house on it. Because they're not going to buy 9 lots.
Right.
Just because they want lot number 2.
Can we figure out a way to do a combination of both? Where we'd accept their proposals for the next, 45 days or whatever, for individual lots and or a combination of parcels?
Well, right now the lots are for sale. There is nothing stopping a developer from
Right.
coming in.
But then how many are banging on our door?
Well, you can make the same argument about individuals. I mean, we have a listed price, but that's always negotiable, so lowering the price is it really gonna get us any place different than we are right now?
It might
only
start
gives us new-
people,
Oh,
excuse me, it might start people looking again at it, because the last time we lowered the price, what did we do? Sell 5 of them? No. There was 2 that had been sold, and after the price was reduced, there was 5 additional lots sold. It might spark that interest again.
It is springtime, I mean, almost. I mean, this is the time people start looking again, but
Yeah, Commissioner Braum, I was going to say there was a conversation at our last Housing Needs Initiative meeting in February that there is a lot of activity in the pipeline for construction this year.
Mm-hmm. I think so, yeah. Most new construction, though, is going to be over and above what would be deemed the affordable priced homes that we'd be looking at here. I think my thought in packaging them, selling them to a single developer would be that they could reach better economies of scale in going in and finishing the houses and meeting them to the specs that are present with the covenants, and rather than trying to get individual ones, because the cost of construction continues to rise. So,
and what meets our goal is what we said last year, is getting out of this business. So selling one by one by one, like I said, we
Right.
could still be here 3 years, still trying to sell property, when we kind of want to move to a different world.
the other thing is we can set, open it for bids, but have a minimum accepted. We're not going to let them go for under a certain price, and just gauge the interest in doing so. We may already be too late for this year. I think a lot of builders have got their plans set for 18 already. A lot of builders are already looking to late 18, early 19, just because of the volume of work out there right now. So we might find ourselves here, like end of this year or early next year, circling back to maybe packaging and selling these if it's decided today we want to just lower the price again.
I think we could come up with basically an RFP for one, all, or a combination of lots that the developer could submit. We've got, roughly $8,000 in each lot, minimum $8,000 bid, and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Or pick a number that, the minimum number is, and maybe, you say minimum 8,000, somebody comes in at 8,500 and buys them all.
Mm-hmm.
It achieves our goal of divesting, gets it in the hand of developer, and maybe they can achieve economy of scale that we couldn't.
So
I
you're
think it'd be
gonna,
worth a try. Got nothing to
I kind of
lose.
like that.
are you gonna offer that price to individuals as well?
Sure, anybody.
That's one or all, or a combination. Some developer may come in and say, I want the 5 large lots, and I'm willing to pay X dollars per lot.
Mm-hmm.
But they set the price to us. We're not going to put a minimum price, at least publicly. Is that, or?
Well, I guess I would put a minimum price, because,
Okay.
publicly, we say we've got $7,850 in each
Right.
lot, so,
Okay.
I'd say.
I'm sure the bigger lots will
sounds
sell
like
pretty
a
quick.
nice even
Yeah.
number, and we want to get our money back out.
Mm-hmm.
So we do a little advertising, or would we just solicit to the?
Yeah, I think we would post it, we'd advertise it.
If that's across the board minimum, then what Dan just mentioned, large lots may go first, and then
We'll be left with the small lots. Yeah.
with small and won't get our 8 out of it, most likely.
Yeah. What kind of timeline do we want on this? Do we need 60 days? Do we need 30? Probably 60.
Well, I would think 60, because maybe they've got to do some
That's what I'm-
financial analysis with
Mhm.
their lender. I don't know how fast, they can turn that around. And I know many of the contractors they've got work lined up from now until fall.
Mm-hmm.
So giving them 60 days might might be of value. Rush it too fast, they may go, I just don't have time to do the paperwork.
Well, somebody just buy it and let it sit until they have time to work on it
Yeah.
a year from now. So, be fine by me. So,
I'm just thinking of trying to sit down and do the financial analysis and the holding cost, and then go talk to their bankers and all that stuff. Some people are just gonna look at it and say, 30 days, I'm too busy, I just don't have time to put towards the analysis. I would think 60 days would be good, and that's what, March, April, May, mid-May, I mean, that's spring. If they were interested in getting one house started or something.
right. Well, I'll try a motion, then I'll offer a motion to reduce the lot prices for the 9 unsold lots to $8,000, respectively.
Is that the minimum?
Minimum,
The
sorry.
minimum of
Minimum.
8,000.
Yeah, help me along here. For 60 days upon the date of advertising or publication, that makes sense, and we'll solicit bids, from individuals or developers. Does that work?
We'll
We'll
see
do
what
the
happens.
normal.
Kind of messy, but it's out there.
We'll do the normal sealed bid, opaque envelope, all the information that we normally would do on any other bid. And then we'll include they can be purchased in 1 to 9 lot blocks.
Correct.
And they can specify the lot which they want.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
Do we have to specify, let's say, I come in and I want to give you 8,000 for all the lots, and somebody else comes in and I'll give you 9,000 for just one?
Oh.
How are we gonna decipher?
Per lot.
Yes.
Per lot. They'll bid per lot, not in a package. Yeah, that'll work.
That's interesting. Now you're messing it all up.
Yeah.
But it's a good question.
Yeah.
Just to be
We'll
clear,
take the highest bid.
Bid per
on
lot.
Each lot.
Right, so maybe that
There
needs
we
to be
go.
part of the motion. I'll make that part of the motion,
I'll second that motion,
that messy motion.
if you've got it, if Heather's got it down.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see what Heather's got out of
I
that.
may have to review the video.
All right.
Review the
We do have a motion of
We do have a
some
motion, and a second.
All in favor, say aye.
Is there any more
Aye.
discussion?
well, I
Any more
just,
discussion, yeah. Go ahead.
one question, just real quick, just to be clear. I believe the covenants up there prohibit an individual from buying 2 adjoining lots and putting 1 structure on 2 lots up there, right? Just to be clear. Okay, I thought that was the case.
Right.
I don't want someone coming in and thinking they're gonna build a monster house up there on two adjoining
The
lots.
covenants still exist.
Yep.
And
So-
it would still be applied to each lot.
Okay.
I'm questioning whether or not we should have different minimums for the different size lots. There's a major difference between a large and small lot.
I think, I really believe the larger lots will sell at that price fairly quickly, and then we'll be left with the smaller lots and having to wrestle with those, but we'll see what happens, I guess.
We do have the right to turn them down, so I mean, I would assume.
Well, they've got
And
a
not
lot of
that we
interest.
say-
You'd have to have a pretty
Good
good
reason,
reason.
yeah.
Let's say, you set the minimum at $8,000 and somebody comes in and says, I really want that lot, and I put a bid in of $9,500.
Mm-hmm.
What's your reason to turn them down?
Yeah, there wouldn't be any. Nope.
And that is a pretty good deal when you look at that. We're asking for 20,000 on those larger lots, and we're only offering 8.
Unless you want to set them at like 8,000, 9,000, 10,000. 10,000 is still half our ask on the large.
Just change the minimum bid on each lot, is what you're saying?
Just so that you have,
Mhm.
they are
Could do that.
getting.
So it recognizes the size difference.
Mhm.
What are we thinking?
8, 9, 10.
8, 10, and 12?
Well,
You can do that, 8, 10, and 12.
I like 8, 10, 12 myself, but
Sounds
you
good.
guys are the ones that vote.
Remember, we're trying to get rid of or trying to get
Yep.
out of this business.
Add it to your motion.
Well, we have a motion on the table, so we have to
Amend it.
amend it. I'll amend my motion to the price, and, which will make it even messier, right, Heather? The small lots at 8,000, the medium at 10, and the larger lots at 12.
And again, you mentioned price, but minimum price.
Minimum, excuse me, thank you.
So if we get if we get several bids on these and they're over, let's say the large lot, they're over the 12,000, they come in at maybe 14,000, 13,000, we can take the better of the bids.
Yes.
Right.
And away we go.
And each bid is going to be specific to each individual lot, so that a person wanting to buy is
I like
going
that
to.
too. Maybe that should be,
Mhm.
the bid should be individual per lot.
Yep.
So if to buy all 9 lots, you have to do 9 separate bids, but that'll help with you guys trying to figure this all out at the end. Okay, so that's the new amended motion. Who seconded that?
I did. I will resecond
Resecond
that fuzzy little amended motion. So
Now that we get the waters muddy, any more discussion? Everybody in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 8A, consider resolution adopting amended EDA bylaws. Heather?
All right, the original bylaws were adopted on April 17th, 1968. At that time, we were a Housing and Redevelopment Authority. The current bylaws were adopted on March 28th, 1994, when the authority changed to an Economic Development Authority. So a while back, the board asked us to have the city attorney review the bylaws and come back with any recommendations. The amended bylaws will not be effective until approved by at least 4 members of the authority and also by the New Ulm City Council. So the city attorney has reviewed the current EDA bylaws and recommends the following changes. Under Article 2, Officers, Section 1, as far as officers are concerned, per state statute, the office of treasurer shall be held by a commissioner. Currently, the office of treasurer is held by the city's finance director. The city attorney recommends combining the secretary and treasurer position into one position to be held by a commissioner to comply with statute. If that's approved, we would need to do an election for an officer for that position, but we decided to wait until the EDA has adopted the amendment and also has been approved by City Council, and then we would come back and do that election. Under Article 3, Meetings, Section 2, Annual Meeting, that has been updated with changes that were approved in 2015, and that was changing the time from 7:30 a.m. to 8 o'clock a.m. Under Section 3, Regular Meetings, again with the time change that was approved in 2015, that's been updated. And Section 8, Rules of Procedure, that's an additional section referring to the Roberts Rules of Order. So those are the changes. You can see there's a redlined draft for your review, and then there's also a clean draft. Are there any questions on the proposed changes?
Yeah, the only question I had is, who's our assistant treasurer?
That's,
Is that-
Well,
I read through that and I was like, do we have one?
right
New
now,
secretary treasurer, and then an assistant treasurer. Now, it does say it could be city staff or one of us.
right now, the finance director is acting as the treasurer,
Right.
and the city's assistant finance director acts as the assistant treasurer. With the change, we would have a commissioner acting as secretary treasurer, and I would assume then the finance
would
director
become
would be
the-
the assistant treasurer In fact, I think that is stated.
That's how I was
It's stated
Under the
assuming it, but I wanted to
definition.
double check. Okay. That was the only question I had, otherwise I thought the changes were appropriate.
I had a question too. I think in the language it states that we have to have a secretary present at every meeting, and that if the appointed secretary is absent, that the president shall appoint a interim secretary. More of a, I suppose, a technicality, but does that have to be reflected in our minutes if we don't have a secretary present at the meetings?
Yeah, I
Probably.
suppose so. We'll have to appoint someone, and then
Mhm.
they would be
miss any
listed
meetings.
and sign the
Okay.
minutes for that meeting.
The pressure's on Mike, sorry.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't know if the
Yeah,
president
maybe
can
here.
appoint the vice president or himself as the acting secretary. Is that an option?
Or could it just be worded that way for technicality, just that the president assumes the role for the meeting or something so that we don't forget? Or is it not that big a deal?
Yeah, am I splitting hairs?
In 6 months from now, anybody gonna remember that?
No.
Mike's not here, we gotta appoint
Yeah.
a temporary Mike.
How is it handled by city
Mike, you are no
council?
longer allowed to miss a meeting.
We don't have that. Just place,
You think if you written in here, not necessarily the president, whoever is chairing the meeting is automatically the secretary.
We'll just take on that role.
Commissioner
Can we ask
Schmitz
Roger
is
to-
gone.
He's okay with that?
Yeah, should we, as long as he's okay with that, go ahead and make
Then
that
approve it
change?
and
But
adopt it.
have, mhm.
So what was the direction on the last comment? To have Roger
Do we
do
want
what?
Roger to, I don't know if Roger would have an objection to that, but maybe there's a rule that you can't do that either, I don't know. That the president would just assume that role for that meeting. That way we don't have
Actually,
to.
what it probably should say is if the secretary is absent from a meeting, the presiding officer shall designate an acting secretary.
Yeah, or however.
That takes into account if the president's gone.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So you have a presiding officer and designate an acting secretary. I think that should be from one of the remaining non-office holders, whoever that might be.
And we probably will remember, because you always gotta sign checks.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we will know that somebody's gotta get appointed.
Yep.
So yeah, maybe that isn't as bad as we're thinking it'll be.
So the only change I would suggest is change president to presiding officer. That covers the
President be
The-
gone.
right.
vice president's there.
Right, yeah.
And the other issue wouldn't be that serious.
Yeah, I think we're gonna be fine with.
Good.
So as long as the city attorney's okay with that change,
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think we're fine, maybe not worried
I'll
about
run it by him.
So with that, I'll offer a resolution to, or offer the resolution waive the reading amending the bylaws.
I'll second it.
We got a motion, a second off resolution, waive reading. Any more discussion?
One thing,
Yes.
under the executive director, second sentence basically says the city manager shall act as the executive director of the authority. Just look into the future, or designee, because quite honestly, with the assistant being economic development director, the EDA kind of falls into that particular
role.
area. I guess I'd like to talk to the city attorney about if that's an acceptable thing, because it might be that the best person to be the executive director is not necessarily the city manager. Could be the assistant city manager.
Right.
This at least gives the option to have the manager designate who the executive director is. Just
Fine with that
a
amendment.
concept.
Who is my seconder?
Commissioner
Who
Fix.
seconded?
was the second.
Susan did
Susan? Okay.
Yeah, I
You okay
did.
with that
All right.
second?
the amended.
Sure.
So you want that to read city manager or
Designee.
designee?
Yep, or his or the city manager's designee.
So 2 things to run past the city attorney, and assuming he's okay, we'll move forward. If not, I'll have to bring it
Bring it
back.
back.
Sounds good. Any more discussion? Seeing none? Heather, please call the roll.
Commissioner Brum?
Yes.
Commissioner Fix?
Yes.
Commissioner Yanni?
Yes.
Commissioner Schultz?
Yes.
Commissioner Schwartz?
Yes.
President Schmitz?
Yes, motion carries. But no more business, meeting adjourned.